the extreme heat or the high temperatures and the dust. Sometimes we take it like for granted here because this is like most of the time. But it's interesting that although we are maybe used to it, but this is an extreme weather condition that buildings have to be resilient.
True.
Right?
The thing is, we've been here for so long, lived here for so long that we kind of become part of our lives. So when it really strikes me is when you have a visitor here and the way they sort of exasperate when it becomes so warm or they're sweating and you look in the horizon and it's so dusty, and that's when we realize what an issue it is.
You mentioned the rising sea level.
Correct.
This is something I think normal people don't feel or don't see.
Correct.
Are there evidence that sea level is rising and then we should be, let's say, worried about that?
There definitely is a lot of evidence globally to prove that the ocean temperature is warming up, the levels are rising. The thing is, there are countries who are already facing the effects of it. So that worries me a bit. What if we have a situation wherein it rises a bit more than it should be? Those developments could be in danger. Because if a building is not resilient, it leads to a lot of disruption. And when an operation shuts down because of what we experienced in 2024, be it an airport or other critical infrastructure, there's a lot more that goes in to crank it up to perform optimally. Now, when buildings are designed in a resilient manner, the whole intention is to make sure that disruption is minimized to the bare minimum.
Have you seen a change in the building codes or regulations related to buildings in the past 2 decades when it comes to resilience?
Yes, codes have changed, have improved. But have these codes changed because of this incident that happened 2 years ago? No. But what has happened is the government of the UAE, and especially the government of Dubai, has initiated several facilities, several mechanisms to ensure that climate resilience is taken more seriously. So all of these initiatives have been put into place to make sure that the city and the country is more resilient to climate.
Welcome to the Sustainability Lounge by Emirates Green Building Council, the sustainability designed space where passionate members, partners of the council, meet, collaborate, learn and share knowledge to make buildings and cities in the UAE greener. I'm Abdullatif Albitawi, CEO of Emirates Green Building Council, and I'll be the host for this episode. This year, the Council celebrates its 20th anniversary of impact on people and the planet. And on this occasion, we would like to raise awareness about an important topic, which is how green buildings in UAE can be resilient to extreme weather events. Joining us today is a special guest who is a board member of EmiratesGBC and senior associate at HOK, Sanjeev. Welcome to the Sustainability Lounge.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullatif. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Resilience is a very important topic that is popping out, nowadays, maybe more than before, not just on the local, let's say, level, but also regionally and globally. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you on resilience for the built environment.
Me too, yeah.
In UAE specifically. So maybe we start firstly with let's say, setting the context or the scene. What are the types of extreme weather events here in UAE? And how can this impact, or these events can impact the condition of operation of buildings here?
Essentially, extreme heat, dust, high wind. These are the short-term issues that we encounter on a regular basis year after year. And then, of course, the flooding, because when it rains, it pours. So we have to be careful about that. And then on the long term, we have rising sea levels because of global warming. So these are the aspects that we have to worry about here.
I want to touch upon 2 points maybe. the extreme heat or the high temperatures and the dust. Sometimes we take it like for granted here because this is like most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that although we are maybe used to it, but this is an extreme weather condition that buildings have to be resilient.
True.
Right?
The thing is, we've been here for so long, lived here for so long that we kind of become part of our lives. So when it really strikes me is when you have a visitor here and the way they sort of exasperate when it becomes so warm or they're sweating and then you look in the horizon and it's so dusty, and that's when we realize what an issue it is, and it is really extreme. Yeah. The good thing is that we're all equipped to deal with it when it comes to design and the way we manage our buildings to take care of it, which is why we don't really feel it. The current heat wave in Europe, for example, everyone's suffering. The ACs are conking, they don't have fans, they don't have enough windows. Whereas here, we experience it every day and we're well equipped. So a part of the problem is already solved because we've got good buildings, good AC, and we kind of know how to tackle it. But yes, with each passing year, it gets warmer and warmer. So we need to think of more innovative ways to overcome it. Yeah.
Interesting. And the other point is you mentioned the rising sea level.
Correct.
This is something I think normal people don't feel or don't see.
Correct.
Are there evidence that sea level is rising and then we should be, let's say, worried about that?
There definitely is a lot of evidence globally to prove that the ocean temperature is warming up, the levels are rising. The thing is, there are countries who are already facing the effects of it. Whereas here in the UAE, per se, because of the amount of developments along the coast, there is a misplaced sense of optimism that everything's taken care of and we are safe. But when I drive, especially in the Northern Emirates, from the road that we're actually driving, and you kind of see most of the developments are much lower than where you tentatively think they should be. So that worries me a bit. What if we have a situation wherein it rises a bit more than it should be? Those developments could be in danger. Yeah.
We started with the term resilience, but also we hear often durability. Can you elaborate the difference between, if there is a difference between a resilient building and a durable building?
Sure. The two, although they sound very similar, they're not. There's a subtle difference. A durable building is one that's meant to last long, whereas a resilient building is one that defines how well it responds to a traumatic event. How does it respond to it? How does it behave during and after? And how well does it recover from an event? So that's how the two are different. Durability is how long a building can last. Resilient building is how well it reacts to a traumatic event and recover.
Very interesting. Thank you for the clarification, because you're absolutely right. I think sometimes we may even use the words interchangeably, trying to refer to the same thing, but it's not the same.
Yeah, there is a subtle difference there.
That's
a very meaningful one as well. Yeah.
All right. Now let's go to I think an area where probably it's your area of expertise. So we talk about designs now. It's a question maybe of two parts. So the first part is, how can we design a resilient building, or what are the factors or considerations to be taken when we design a building if we want it to be resilient? And the second part of the question is, if we design those resilient buildings, what are the benefits for us, not just the people, but for everything?
It's a very good question, and you have to look at it very holistically. As experienced architects working in this region for so long, it's not just a question about designing a good building and a durable building. Yes, you can have good concrete and it can be designed well, but if it's wrongly located in a floodplain, there's no point in having a very strong building. It's going to get washed out during a flood. So that again is, how do you locate your building? How do you design your building intelligently? Perhaps your building should be at a higher location than you normally would, so that when a traumatic situation does come our way, it can sustain that event better. You saw quite a few buildings during the storm in 2024 There was nothing wrong with the buildings. It's just that they weren't designed adequately well to cope with 4 extra inches of water coming down the ramp or the main entrances. Had that basic thought been put into it, it would have survived that storm better. No pun intended as such. Coming to design, in terms of, let's talk about the envelope. If you design a building envelope well, it keeps dust out and infiltration in, and therefore you experience better indoor air quality. That's one. If you design a resilient building, it can withstand a storm better and it can recover more quickly than a normal building would. So it brings down downtime basically. So that way your productivity is enhanced and not disrupted. Does that cover your question?
Yes.
Okay.
But before I go to the second part of the question, I'm thinking. So when an architect designs a building, does the architect think about resilient, as an additional element, or is it like embedded in the design itself? And in the thinking of the design, or no, I have to think, yes, I want to make this building resilient, so I have to do something different.
Okay. So a good experienced architect would take all of this into consideration. And an added criteria would be sustainability. So you think about durability because that's a given.
Right.
You think about sustainability because of judicial use of resources. You want to use less. And then you think about resilience because yes, it is a building. It ticks all the boxes, but it also needs to be resilient. It needs to be adaptable. It needs to think of uncertain events and deal with them in a manner that a normal building wouldn't. So yes, all these 3 criteria are important: durability, sustainability, and resilience.
Interesting. So if you want to kind of like list the benefits of having or building a resilient building, you've kind of talked about it during your but if you want to put them like in a list, or what would be those benefits? Why do I have to design a resilient building?
Okay, you need to design a resilient building mainly because it needs to reduce resources, an intelligent way of using resources. That's important. That's what a resilient building would do. It also would bring lower life cycle costs. It would enhance the work environment, lesser disruption. So that's where resilience kicks in. It would also be an efficient building to maintain. If it's designed in a resilient way, it would keep out heat in a more efficient manner. So there's lesser maintenance costs, lesser chance of equipment breaking down. The air inside is more pure, so you can work in a more enhanced and focused manner. So there are all these subtle ways in which a good resilient building ensures that your work happens undisrupted.
Interesting. So benefits are, again, on people's safety and health, but also from a financial or an economical point of view, because you said you save on resources, you save also on maintenance and operability of buildings.
Correct. Because if a building is not resilient, Abdullatif, it leads to a lot of disruption. And when an operation shuts down because of what we experienced in 2024, be it an airport or other critical infrastructure, there's a lot more that goes in to crank it up to perform optimally. Now, when buildings are designed in a resilient manner, the whole intention is to make sure that disruption is minimized to the bare minimum. So that's where it kicks in.
Interesting. You reminded me when 2024, the building
April 2024.
Yeah, the building I lived in, we had, again, one of the big impacts because of the floods was that the electrical room of the building was flooded.
Correct.
And then they had to cut power.
Now, there again, it was well designed.
Yes.
It met all the codes.
It was running very well for so many years.
Exactly. Yes. So that's durability. But it wasn't resilient because all of that, if it were, say, 10 feet higher, it would have then been resilient.
Correct.
So that's the difference.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's move to, let's say, the regulatory part now. Policies, regulations, codes. Have you seen a change in the building codes or regulations related to buildings in the past 2 decades when it comes to resilience? And if there were changes, can you highlight some of them, or maybe?
Codes evolve over time. So yes, codes have changed, have improved. But have these codes changed because of this incident that happened 2 years ago? No. that didn't happen. But what has happened is the government of the UAE, and especially the government of Dubai, has initiated several facilities, several mechanisms to ensure that climate resilience is taken more seriously. The whole thought process and the investment has gone towards this deep stormwater project, for example, which has increased the capacity to absorb stormwater by a whopping 700%, I'm told. So all of these initiatives have been put into place to make sure that the city and the country is more resilient to climate.
Okay.
So that's happened. Now, the codes didn't change, but the codes kind of complement that effort.
So maybe we take the opportunity to call for, updating or maybe again considering resilience more in the codes or in the regulatory, let's say.
Not really. The codes are there. Like, for example, you choose to design what you want to design to, either a 25-year event or a 50-year event or a 100-year event. Now, there was this project in Doha, and Doha had a similar storm. And overnight, the client called us and said, okay, from a 50-year event, how about you design the storm water system for a 100-year event? Fortunately, the building had the capacity to have larger attenuation tanks to absorb that extra water, the ramps, the locations, and so on and so forth. So we were able to have elements quickly incorporated into the design and integrated in such a way that we could tick that box of say, yes, a 100-year event could be accommodated.
Okay. That's
it's all about mitigation.
Yeah, that's important. But people usually also talk about regulations. But what about, let's say, the other parties, the relevant parties, whether they are, companies or even, what do you think, or what is needed from the industry so that we really build more resilient building?
We have a very robust ecosystem in the UAE, fortunately. Yeah, we are blessed in that sense. Keeping regulations and codes apart, I would say innovation, design innovation. I would say tapping into talent. I would say creating incentives, financial as well as other ways of encouraging people to think and build in a resilient manner. That's what's important here.
And I mean, again, from your experience, do you see? Again, I would focus now maybe on companies, again, whether contractors, developers, consultants, architects. But do you see a growing, let's say, interest in those different, let's say, stakeholders when it comes to resilience?
Of course. There's always a good aspect to something bad, right? So whenever you have these storms or very high winds or, heat wave, the industry keeps getting reminded about what they should be doing. So educating them, making sure that all the professionals are brought onto the same page, and making sure that we bring in our resources to make sure that our design takes into consideration all these events. So we're improving. With every event, we improve. Yeah,
that's nice to know. Sanjeev, you represent HOK in the board of directors of Emirates Green Building Council for many years. And were you from the very beginning, you yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then it's not many years, it's probably two decades now.
Yeah, a little bit more because it's 20 years since we are around, but a year to sort of set it up.
Very good. Why do you find the role of green building councils in general, but more specifically Emirates Green Building Council, very important in the industry, in this sector?
Like in all things, Abdullatif, there is strength in unity. And more so in our business. As individual consultants, there's only that much we can do. But when we come together for a common cause, like we did all those decades ago, because we had many like-minded professionals with similar thoughts, but no forum to channel our efforts into. And that's how the EGBC was born. That's how this forum was born. So when we have a collective like what EGBC is, our voices get heard more clearly and there's more impact in what we say. Councils like the EGBC have a very, very important role to play because they constantly remind the industry and the public at large about all the issues that we continuously face and how we need to sort of rise up to the challenge and tackle them. it's a kind of a soft power, if I may put it that way. It helps all the various stakeholders understand what challenges we are facing and remind them to take action. Yeah.
Interesting. I think I can spend hours speaking about that, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid I don't have the time for that.
True.
Now, and I have a small request.
Okay.
Would like you to write down, you have a piece of card, in few words, what does sustainability means to you personally?
Okay.
You ask Sanjeev, what does the sustainability means for you? So if you write those few words and then show it to the camera,
Sure.
And I'll join you also in writing mine, but after you do yours.
Sure.
Less is more.
Yeah. I know this sounds pretty cliche, right? You've probably heard about it innumerable times. But to me, since you said to me personally, it has a profound meaning because of what I see around me on a daily basis. We use far more than we actually need. Yeah. And which is why I believe, not just as designers, but even on a personal level, we have to constantly strive towards managing with as little as we can. Do we really need the amount of materials we use in our buildings? Do we really need the amount of clothes we have in our wardrobe? Do we really need the amount of food that's available to us in the supermarkets? All of these things have prompted me to put this down. And the change comes from within at a personal level. And then it gets reflected in the design we do. At HOK, we're very cognizant of the fact that we have to design responsibly. And one of that is the materials we select. Yeah.
You helped me in now writing what I think of sustainability.
Yeah.
And in fact, you used the exact word. So I hope the audience don't think I'm cheating from you. But
it's always a collaborative process, right?
Very good. So responsible, being responsible, whether in using resources or in consuming, but also responsible in our daily work and our daily lives.
I would like to add to what you said, and it's a very important thing that you highlighted, responsibility, right? And with responsibility comes discipline. They go hand in hand, I feel. And at an individual level, responsibility, discipline, very, very important.
Very nice.
If those building blocks,
very good,
that get extrapolated.
Sure, thank you. It's been an interesting discussion, Sanjeev. Thank you very much for your insights, for your input, also for your time being with us today. And thank you to our audience. And thank you to Emirates Green Building Council and its team who worked hard behind this. EmiratesGBC is hosting its 15th annual Congress this year in October. This is a gathering where leaders from the sustainability built environment gather to share knowledge, information, and insights. Also this year, we have the MENA Green Building Awards annual gala dinner during also October, where organizations are recognized for their performance and for their achievements in the sustainability built environment. To learn more about both events, use the link provided to you. To access this lounge and become part of EmiratesGBC and learn more about the coming episodes, you can become a member of the council by joining and using the link provided.